Hello, hi David.
Oh wow,
Shem.
that's awesome.
Russia.
That's
Morning.
awesome. Okay. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Do you remember where we were holding? I don't have my Gemara, so I didn't write down any of my notes over here. Yeah, here we are. Chaf Zayin Amud Beis. We're holding by the two dots, right where the lines get the medium lines, right by the beginning of the medium lines. We just finished discussing the sugya, the foreshadowing of Ezehu Neshech, which we will get to very soon together. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Mutar LaAdam LaHashtin Mayim B'Seif Daled Amos Shel Tefillah. This Gemara is coming off of so this is coming off of the Gemara, the Mishnah. The Mishnah above said that there seems to be a three-way machlokes, the Rav Meir, the Chachamim, and Rabbi Yehuda about the status of a shul, whether one is allowed to or not sell it. Rav Meir said that if you sell it, the sale comes with a contingency, it comes with strings, that the seller has the right to buy it back really at any moment in time, which is what started the conversation about ribbos. Then there's the sheet of the Chachamim that disagrees and says, no, you could sell it and it doesn't come with any strings, or said better, it comes with 4 strings. It comes with 4 limitations on what you can do with the shul, even when it's bought. And there, l'chura, the limitation wouldn't be on the people who buy it. The limitation would be on the one who is selling it, or maybe perhaps both, on if you know what their intention is, you wouldn't be allowed to sell it, which maybe color a little bit of the question as when you were asking about, well, what about if I'm just selling it to people who I don't know, or what if I don't know. I know it's definitely not on. Okay, so hey, what's up? And then there was the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said in the Mishnah that you can sell it really for any tzorach sheyiyah, right? Halokeach, v'halokeach mashiyir tziyasa. Whatever he wants to do, he could do. So off of that, the Gemara is now going to say, well, okay, once we're talking about that, that means Rabbi Yehuda holds that the 4 things that the Chachamim said you can't do. You can't make a bathhouse out of it. You can't turn it into a spa. You can't turn it into a shower room. All of these things, which are sort of seen as, derech bizayon to a beis knesses. Rabbi Yehuda seems to say that's okay. So the question is how far are we going to take it? So off of that, the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, a person is allowed to urinate. He's allowed to go to the bathroom. Within Daled Amos of Tefillah, meaning a person davened, and within Daled Amos, a person is allowed to urinate on the ground. And what's the chiddush? It's a mefurish din in our Mishnah. It says Tanina Rabbi Yehuda. It says in the Mishnah very clearly that Rabbi Yehuda says you could do whatever you want. You could sell a shul. If I could sell a shul, and the people, and I don't have to be concerned with what they're going to do with it, so then why is that any different than a person? I mean, if you could make a bathhouse out of it, so then you should be able to use it yourself. Now you'll tell me, okay, but that's Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe the Chachamim who argue, they'll say you can't. The kviya kedushasei, aval daled amos the loy kviya kedushasei ulay. Meaning, you want to tell me that the Chacham say you can't sell a beis haknesses? Why? Because there's a kedusha there. Well, what's the kedusha come from? The kedusha is neveh from the fact that was a permanent minyan. It was a place of worship. Here you're talking about, you picked a corner on the sun on Machne Yisrael somewhere, and you decided to make a minyan. Now you got to go to the bathroom. They didn't necessarily have public bathrooms then. They would find a side street or something like that. And if it's within Daled Amos where they daven, so it's mutter. What's the shaila? Even the Chacham will be masking. This Gemara says, sorry, so it seems obvious that it would be mutter. Tony Tana Kavid Rav Nachman and Mispal Marchik Daled Amos Umash Marchik Daled Amos Mispal. Rav Nachman says a similar halacha. He says the person who davens, he's saying the opposite direction. A person who davens Mispal, he should move Daled Amos away and go to the bathroom, meaning not like we just saw. The Hamashtin and a person who went to the bathroom Marchik Daled Amos Mispal. Meaning basically, whichever one you do first, you got to go Daled Amos away and then do the second one. Like Bishlam Hamashtin, Marchik Daled Amos. It makes sense if you go to the bathroom, you got to go right? And Dalet Amos Mispalel. Why? Because Tanina we learned in the Brisa. It's really a mission, I think. Kami Yachik Mehen Uminatzoya Dalet Amos. We know that the halacha is that you can't be mispalel within Dalet Amos of a dover mitunov, and that obviously would be one of urine would be one of those things. And therefore, it makes sense that if you've urinated, then a person should go Dalet Amos and only daven outside those Dalet Amos. Allah mispalel marchik Dalet Amos umashtin lamali. Why is it that if I've davened, I finished davening, and now I want to go to the bathroom? What's the tzad to say that it should be usher? Avada that should be mutter, meaning consistent with the first halacha we just saw. The Gemara says and I'll prove it to you, because if you're right, you've just basically turned the entire city of Narda into a shul, because there's never a block and there's never a corner without a minyan where someone's not. We got a chap mincha, chap shakla. It's happening all over the place. Which, by the way, is shtickle raya to the idea that a street does have that kedusha, which we talked about in the Mishnah. That maybe either way. So he says you're right. That can't be what the statement was. It must be. Let's change it to tni yisha. You don't have to move, but you have to wait. Meaning yisha, the amount of time that it would take you to go Dalet Amos. Meaning what we're saying is wait. You've gone to the bathroom or you've davened. Pause. Don't urinate right away. Wait the amount of time it takes you to go Dalet Amos. Wait the amount of time it takes you to go Dalet Amos to daven or to go to the bathroom. And says, have you fixed anything here? Bishlam Mashtin. I understand if you've gone to the bathroom, we'll say wait a little bit. Why? Yisha because there's looking to be some extra drops, and those extra drops have no different than the regular beginning when you go to the bathroom. So it would make sense to wait until those drops are gone. Elam Ispalo. Yisha meaning really it's the same question, right? Why do you have to wait? What exactly are you waiting for? The davening's over, and now you go to the bathroom. You finish davening, go to the bathroom. What's the big deal? It's not because of kedusha. We've established that's not going to be a problem, right? Otherwise, you've ruined all of the streets of Narda. Ravashi shekol Dalet Amos tfilosai. The amount of time it takes to go Dalet Amos shekol Dalet Amos tfilosai stura b'piv. He's still the machine's going. It's like you turn the off position, but the fan's still going. The motor's still running, and therefore, for those time it takes to go Dalet Amos urechushi merachan shevavasei. Your lips are still sort of moving in tefillah. So take a break. Give a minute to wind down from tefillah, so that while you're going to the bathroom, you're not still really davening. This idea of veruchushi merachshan sevevase is an idea that you find in a lot of areas. I heard a beautiful idea from Surly Bornstein said this. He quoted from Yosef Engel. I hope I'm saying it correctly. One of the opinions, right? Toch kedei dibur. You know what toch kedei dibur is, right? Toch kedei dibur is the idea that there are many areas of halacha where if I've made a mistake, we give you a step to go back. Toch kedei dibur is usually a length of time. It's a short period of time. It's usually the amount of time it takes to say Shalom Alecha Rebbe or Shalom Alecha Rebbe Umori. We're talking a second or two. It gives you the ability to sort of catch yourself if maybe you've ended a Melech HaYitzchak or Mishpat, and really it's a Melech HaMishpat or something like. We give you a minute or Melech HaKadosh versus Kel HaKadosh. However, Rav Yosef Engel brings from a sheet of the Ritva. The Ritva says that the understanding of what Toch Kedei Dibur is the reason why is because of this idea of Rechushi Merachshon Svevase, that when you're speaking, just because the speech is finished does not mean the davening is finished. I mean, there's a little bit of a continuation of what's going on in your mind, and the tefillah is still happening. And therefore, he says, it's not like we say, okay, you can go fix the mistake you made. It's like you haven't even stopped davening yet. That's what Toch Kedei Dibur is. So Rav Yosef Engel says, a very apologetic chiddush, but really unbelievable idea. And he says, halacha. He says, according to this Ritva, it'll come out that although B'chol Torah Kulo Toch Kedei Dibur normally means Shalom Alecha Rebbe, like for Nedarim, a person makes a neder. It's a speech. Right, so the rule is, or if a person says Harezi Gitech, actually Toch Kedei Dibur doesn't help there. But let's say a neder, right? So with Nedarim, you have Toch Kedei Dibur to fix the speech before the Isser is Chal. He says from here you see clearly that the reason for why you can't go to the bathroom after is because it's still like you're davening. And what did we say? How long do you have to wait? For Hiluch Dalet Amos. Hiluch Dalet Amos is significantly longer than Toch Kedei Dibur the way we would think of it. He says an interesting halach. He says it'll come out that when we say Toch Kedei Dibur B'chol Torah Kulo, yes, it means Shalom Alecha Rebbe. But when it comes to tefillah's Toch Kedei Dibur, there you have however long it takes you to move about 6 to 8 feet, which is a significantly longer period of time. So that means you can get to the end of davening, right? Let's say it's Akka Ragla by the end of Shemon Esrei, where normally you'd have to go back. I didn't say whatever, I didn't say Yalav Yov or something like that. And you'd have however long it takes you to walk 6 to 8 feet. I don't know, maybe that's 3 seconds. I don't know, but it triples or quadruples the amount of time. It comes at a Peldik Chiddush. One other idea. Rechushi merachshan tzivivasa. Yeah, go ahead.
It's the time that it takes to walk that, or is it the time you need to take a break before you continue to pray?
It's the same thing. Our Gemara is clearly saying that how long must one wait
Do
before?
you wait, or if you've gone?
No. Well, if you've gone, then you've waited the amount of time. The Gemara proves that it's not a distance thing. The Gemara is pointing out that it just means you need to wait for the amount of time it would take you to travel that distance. And therefore, what we're saying is that if you wait that period of time, the nitzotzot will fall off, so therefore you can pray. But what about the other way around? Why? But when you pray, do you have to wait at all? Once you're done praying, so the answer is because your prayer is not done. Why? Because we continue. We consider it like, the engine's still running. For how long is the engine running? For the amount of time it takes you to travel Dalet Amos. Rav Yosef Engel is extending that to say that Tochilei Dibur in general would have that halacha, at least when it comes to tefillah. And that, he says a la halacha, whereas many poskim would say once a half a second or a second has passed, you're done. You got to change it up. So he'll say that you get, let's say, 3 or 4 seconds, which comes at a big kula. I'm not passing that halacha l'mais. I'm just saying. Okay, rechushi merachshan tzivivasa is also an idea. You look at the word merachshan; it looks very similar to another word. It looks very similar to the word marcheshvan. Marcheshvan is the month that comes after Tishrei, and they say the reason why it's called marcheshvan is because of this idea. We spend the entire Tishrei davening, Shana, Yom Kippur, Slichis, the Seres Meitshuva, Megilla, right, and then Yesukis. It's a month that is just filled with tefillah. It's like our mouths are just. The month ends, and now it's the month of marcheshvan. Why is it called marcheshvan? Because it's the month where there's still something going on. There's like an echo, a tremor of what was happening during Tishrei is still continuing even into the next month. Same idea. The tefillah still continues. Continues the Gemara Zalf and Simon. From here to the bottom of Chav Ches Amud Aleph to the Mishnah is going to be a series of questions asked by some Talmidim of their Rebbe. What was it that you did that earned you to live a long life? And we're going to see a lot of very chashuv. This is going to be like a Musar Sefer from here to the Mishnah. We're going to read it though, like not a Musar Sefer, because otherwise we'll spend the whole day. This is a Mishnah. So it says Zalf and Simon. It only mentions 4 of the letters, which means 4 of the names. We'll see there's at least 7 or 8. The Pashas is just talking about the Tanaim. Shalu Tamidu Es Rebbe is lost his spot. Shalu Tamidu Es Rebbe Zakai. Yomim. What was it that you did? And what schus did you get arichas yom? And again, the obvious point here is that every one of these ideas on the page, pachas v'yaisa, are going to be referring to something that they've done beyond the halacha. Meaning, you don't get arichas yomim for keeping halachas, except specific mitzvahs where Hashem says kibbut aveim, shiloh hakan. There are going to be certain mitzvahs that come with an arichas yomim. But generally speaking, mitzvahs are not lav lahanas nitnu mitzvah schar mitzvah b'hai amalek. We don't get schar mitzvah in this world. That's for the next world. We do the mitzvah Hashem said. But if a person goes lifnim mishur sadin, if a person goes beyond what's required of him, there the person can get extra stuff. So we'll see. So they asked him, what did you do to deserve the arichas yom? Meaning that's obviously why we're mentioning it here.
I thought you said we should do that. We should be marchik.
Well, exactly. No. What we said was that you need to wait until for the amount of time it takes to go Dalet Amos, but you don't need to actually go Dalet Amos. And here he's saying, you're right. If it's talking about just waiting Dalet Amos, it's Meikar Adin. I've never called my friend a nickname, and the Pasha says is obviously even a regular nickname, meaning a bad nickname, that's awesome. But to say even like, hey buddy, you just call it nothing negative, that would be mutter. But yet he did it. He did that anyways as a cover. And I also never didn't make kiddush hayom, meaning Shabbos morning kiddush with wine. Meaning kiddush hayom everyone needs to do, but there's no halacha that says that you must use wine. You should use wine. But let's say a person doesn't have enough money. You can use bread. There are other things you can use, or you can use sheicha. You don't have to use yayin. So he says the story. Imas Kano Haisali. He says my mother was I have an older mother. Maybe some portion say it's his grandmother. And Pam Achas Machra Kipa Shibarosha. She sold her sniff. She sold her tichel, not the one she was wearing. Obviously, she had her head covered, but she sold her sniff. Why? Because I didn't have money to cover the cost of the wine that I would need for Shabbos Kiddush. But she was machshiv my mitzvah and the mitzvah herself, that she went ahead and even sold her expensive tichel or whatever. The hevili kiddush hayom, and I was able to use it to buy wine. And it says that when she died, she left him 300 barrels of wine, meaning he starts poor, and by the time she dies, his old mother, which wouldn't have been very long if she was already an older woman, right? They were able to profit as a schus Mida Keneged Mida, that they were machmir. In this inyan of Yain Lakidush, he ended up yarshening 300 barrels of wine. And he was able to multiply it 10x, yeah? The point is, though, is that not only did he get Arichos Yomim, he also got wealthy off of this Chumrah. Now, continues the Gemara, Rav Huna have a Osir Risa. Rav Huna used to wear a gartel, big raya to the Chassid's concept, although Lamaisa it's a halacha, just who says you have to wear a big long thing around your waist. But either way, have Rav Huna have a Osir Risa. He was wearing a gartel, but the gartel wasn't his normal gartel. It wasn't his expensive, nice gartel. He had grabbed some reeds or some straw, and he was using it as a gartel. The Koi Kamid Rav, and Amarle Maihai, he asked him, what is this business around your waist? You look like what's going on over here? Amarle Loi Havali Kedusha. He says, I didn't have any wine for Kiddush. Umishkante Lehimanei. And I pawned it off. I pawned off my good expensive belt to get some cash to go buy the wine. Ve'asoi Bei Kedusha, so I could use it for the wine. Amarle Yehei Rabba Desitum B'Shira. He said, you should be blessed by Hashem, that you shall be covered in silks. Meaning to say he was giving him a bracha for panasa that you're going to have whatever you need. Now, by the way, we know from Tainus that Rav Huna was a groisa usher. Why? He used to go around in a golden, I don't know what you call it, like a chariot. They used to carry him around. He would buy up everything. He was a big tzaddik and a big usher. And here we see he was poor, so poor that he had to, this may be the story of how he got his wealth. And so Rav said to him, you should have a blessing that you should be covered in silk. Silks are obviously very expensive. When his son Rabba, when Rav Huna's son Rabba was getting married, right? Rav Huna was a very small man, meaning it doesn't mean he was only small at the wedding. It means when he was getting married, the story goes that you need to know, Rav Huna was a small man, he was a short man, a small man. You can easily miss him when you're walking into a room, right? If you've ever saw, really honestly, almost all of the Gedolim, they all seem to have a small physical stature. Chafetz Chaim, Moshe was tiny. I mean, he was 5'3", 5'4". I mean, he was a very, very small man. But whatever he was lacking in a physical stature, obviously, he made up. Baron Kotler was. I mean, yeah. Either way, again, they were big. Chaim Shmulevitz was a big man. I'm saying you have a big Talmud also. But either way, Gana Apuria, he was lying on a bed. Asyan Bonsevikalse and his daughters and daughter-in-laws came in for the chasana. What did they do? They were wearing their fancy furs and their fancy silks and their fancy clothes. Sholchan v'shadya, manayu alei. They covered him. They didn't see him on the bed. They just tossed it on the bed, and they completely covered him. It was what ended up happening. Adi'itum b'shirah, until he was covered in silks. Shama Rav heard this story, meaning I guess they must have been schmoozing about it. The kids came in and they covered me in silks. V'ikbid, and he got upset. Meaning, Rav gave him a brach. He said, you're going to be covered in silk. And you, Rav Huna, you were lying in the bed taking a nap when the chasana was happening. They came in and you got covered in silks. Rav got upset when he heard the story. Amr, my time amrisli ki berachticha v'chein lamar. Why was it when I said to you that you should be covered in silk that you didn't say v'chein lamar? So too you. Meaning, once Rav saw that the bracha was niskayim, he's like, maybe that was an ace ratzon. Maybe the time when I said it to you was a very special time, and then I didn't even know it. If you would have said chein lamar, maybe I would have been able to get the same bracha from you, because that was an ace third. You see the anava of Rav, that he understood that the reason why the bracha was niskayim wasn't because Rav gave the bracha. He thought that it was maybe some sort of a time. The time was causing it. But really, it could very well be that if Rav Huna would have said v'chein lamar, it may not have helped, because maybe the bracha from Rav Huna would not have been as, let's say, strong as the bracha of Rav. Yeah, the Mefarshim ask over here in this story, why did he wait? I mean, why wasn't he upset when he said, why did you say v'chein lamar? So there's a discussion here. I like the question better than the answers, but the point is, you see, he was machshev wine so much that when he didn't have it, he sold it. So Rav gave him the bracha, he became wealthy. Sholo Tamid Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua b'meharach yomim amar lehem miyamad le'asisi kapandari lebeis hakneses. Now, it's Meikar Hadin. You're not supposed to use the shul as a shortcut. Like, let's say you need to go get a bagel. You're like, oh, I know, I'll park in the back over here, and then I'll track my way through the shul, and I'll go get a bagel. Now, the rabbi set the shul up without that as a concern. Maybe it could be that would be a heter, because really we didn't set it up as only a shul. It was set up as a community place. It could be, I'm not passing shilas, it could be that kapandaria maybe not be negaya. Now, kapandaria also is not a simple halacha. There are times when there are ifanim when you can do it. You can use it as a shortcut, but there are ways to do it. You got to maybe sit down, say a pasuk. There's little ways that you can maybe get around it. But the point over here is he says, Lo yasisi kapandari lebeis hakneses. It sounds like by him the kedushas beis hakneses was too much, that he would never chas v'shalom use it for anything other than for a place to daven. Lo pasati al roshi Am Kadosh, and when I would walk through the Beis Medrash where people would be sitting on the floor, maybe and learning, I would never walk in such a way that it would appear like I'd be stepping over them. And I never made Berachas Kayanim without a bracha. The Mefarshim of your ask, that's not a special thing. I mean, if you're a Kayan and you go up there, you're supposed to make the bracha. Why is this Arichas Yamim? So they say over here, this one is a little bit more Geshmak Teretz. I forget where the Gemara is. The Gemara seems to be mashma that Kayhanim are Zoichel to Arichas Yamim because of the Berachas Kayanim, because the mitzvah is a mitzvah of benching all Klal Yisrael, that there's a specific, unique schus that they have for Arichas Yamim. So this part of Arichas Yamim isn't because he did anything special. He said, I'm a Kayan, and as a Kayan, I have a special bracha. Because I give others bracha, I'm this Baruch, Hashem gives me a bracha. But either way, it continues the Gemara, Shalol Talmud is Repreda. Repreda, very interesting. Repreda b'maharach the Yamim. What was it that you were zocha to live a long life? Tosas over here just points out, what do you mean? How could the Gemara have a question what it was that Reb Preda did to be zocha to a long life? The Gemara says, the story of Gemara talks about how he was so patient with his Talmidim that he would repeat the shtickle Torah. I couldn't repeat it more than once. If I said it once and he didn't get it, I'd have zero patience. I'd be like, oh, come on, man, are you thick? And he would sit there 400 times with the same Talmud. You don't get it? Let's do it again. And I'm sure he didn't do it like, oh, come on. He sat there, but nachas. One more time, Nachama, let's go over it again. And it says, in that schus, he was given an option. Do you want to have Arichas Yamim for 400 years? Or do you want to be able to, what did he say? He says, or you can have, I forget if it was Parnas or whatever it was. So he said to him, so he said, no, I don't want Arichas Yamim. I want to have, no, other way around. He said, you can either have Arichas Yamim or you can have, I forget if it was learning Torah or whatever it was. He says, no, I want Chayei Olam. I don't want Chayei Shah. And he says, oh, you chose good, and you're going to get both. And so the Gemara says he ended up living 400 years. I don't understand the mitzvahs of that, but it says that. So what do you mean? Ask the Gemara. We know exactly why you're. So it could be the simple answer is that that's the emes. The emes is what Taisa says from the other Gemara. But his Talmidim didn't understand that. The Talmidim, and it also could be that they were asking at a different time. It could be when he was 97, they came and asked what it was, and they said, oh, I did this, I did that. When he was 316, maybe it could be at that point he was like, maybe I was wrong. I mean, what I did was good, but maybe not this good that I would deserve to live this long. So it could be that's what the Gemara says over there. But either way, and
it also could be that there were two different traditions about why he lived long.
Yes, that could be. I like my answer better, but fair enough. my answer, yeah. Yeah. No, you're probably right. Like all good balabat shetayro, you're probably right. We're not going to go viral with that. You know what I mean? You have to, yeah. Okay. No one ever got to Beis Medrash before me. And it's not because you had to set the Zoom up to say the Daf Yomi. It was because he actually wanted to get to shul early so that he could be able to learn and daven early. And if there was a benching opportunity, even though I wasn't the Kayan, I would never bench before another Kayan. Meaning, I would never bench in front of a Kayan. Which again, that sounds like something to make her a din. So why is that something that he's special? So we'll see in the Gemara in a minute. So there's something called the Zeroi L'chaim Keba. So even though I have chulin, normally when you have a carbon that you bring a carbon, there are parts of the carbon that go to the Kayan. But even when you shecht chulin, there are parts of the chulin animal. Even when you're shechting something that you're going to be eating, there are parts that go to the Kayan. Now the question is are those things ma'akib? Do they prevent you from being able to eat the rest of the animal or not? So what it's saying over here is that he never ate from an animal that he did not have those royal chaim keva given to a kayan, which sounds like he holds that mikra din that's mutter, and we'll see in the Gemara in a moment. Which would mean it's ikar din. Which sounds again like a tikra din. However, meaning, so since the halacha is not like that, although there seems to be some sort of a maila, a good thing to do it, he says, so he was machmir for that shita that we don't hold of, and therefore he was zochet arichas yomim for that. Gemara's mashma that lemember de mal yusahi, that he let a kohen go in front of him was something chashuv, because otherwise, why is he saying that's the reason why I had an arichas yom? So Gemara asks a question in the opposite direction. A person who's a Talmud Chacham that allows a kohen to go in front of him, afilu kohen gadol am haaretz, even if he's a kohen gadol. But if he's an am haaretz, you cannot let an am haaretz go in front of you, even if he's a kohen gadol. So what do you see? You see that letting a kohen go in front of you is not always necessarily a good thing. You see, there are times when not only that's the case, Oisach Talmud Chacham Chayiv Misa. Why? Shenemar, the pasuk says, Kol misan oya ahavu maves. This is referring to Hashem. All who hate Hashem love death. Al tikri misanoi. Don't read it as the ones who hate him. Ella masniai, the ones who make Hashem be hated. Right? Meaning what? Meaning that they are Talmidei Chachamim who don't acknowledge the kavod hatayr that is within them, and they act in such a way that leads to others thinking, oh, this is the Talmud Chacham, that's the way he behaves, meaning he lets an Amaretz like this daven and bench in front of him. That's very disgusting. So therefore, the Gemara is bothered. What do you mean you zoich ta'arichas yom because you let the Kohen go first? Even when he's an Amaretz, you let him go first? Or says, no, kik amar iu b'shavin. I was only saying what I said when we're equal. When we're on an equal level, he's a Talmud Chacham and I'm a Talmud
Pretty much
Chacham.
the beginning.
You just put yourself on mute, just only because it comes out. I mean, unless you have something to say. Yeah. Kikamer iu b'shavin. He was only making his statement that the Arichas Yamim was zocheh to that because he would only let the Kohen bench in front of him only when they were equal. Which again now comes back to question. So that sounds like that's Meikar Adin, meaning if they're both equal. So some Mefarshim speak out. What it means is that even though the other Kohen was a Talmud Chacham, and he was a Talmud Chacham, and he was obviously a much bigger Talmud Chacham than him, he would still let the Kohen go first, because that wasn't a bizayon to Torah, because he was a Talmud Chacham. You could let a Talmud Chacham go. But if he's an Amaretz, that's already a different story. But he didn't have to let him go first, because really he's a bigger Talmud Chacham, and he could have gone first also. Okay.
So is this him getting a combination of all these things, or he knows exactly why he had?
I'm saying Balabatish. I think these people are they're like, you're asking me, I don't know, Hashem never told me why I was they're like, listen, if you're asking me what are the things that when I lived my life, they're obviously not asking the question when the guys were 35. They're asking them when they were probably in their 80s and their 90s or maybe even older, and they said, what was it that you were zocheh to live a very long life? And he says, I don't know. I'm a Shemit Torah mitzvahs. I was Yar Shemaim. I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I did all the mitzvahs. But if you want to know what specifically I did different than anyone else, well, I'll tell you. So these three things were for me extra. I did extra. I don't think the implication is they didn't do extra in other places. I think some Mefarshim want to bring a raya from here that it's lav dafka. Is it necessarily the desire of a Kadosh Baruch Hu that we be machmirim, right? Meaning, they found three things that they were machmir on. That means nothing else, right? He didn't say Chol of Yisrael. He didn't. I'm saying, like, I'm not pointing out Allah Lamaisa one shouldn't be machmir. If you want to be a machmir and it's good for you, you should be a machmir, 100%. But I'm just pointing out it seems to me they found the three things in their life that they went lifnim mishur sadin. Lifnim mishur sadin is certainly an idea. It's hard to say exactly if they knew for sure it was this or if it was just their assumption based on. I assume it was more a personal thing. You're asking me, I don't know, but these are the three things I really spent on my whole life. If you would ask, the Chavetz Chaim, he said, listen, I was makban on lashon hara a little bit. It's hard to say. I don't know, but it's a good question. Continues the Gemara. I can't take my finger off the place because I don't have my marks. Okay, here we are. What was it that made you live so long? I never took any pleasure in seeing my friends have downfall, which to me sounds like, although that's a very nice thing, I don't think anyone's allowed to do that. I don't know why you get anything special for that. Oh, that's my kids. Hold on 1 second.
Hello, guys. How we doing?
Hello.
How we doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. You want to tell with us?
They're going to go sit over there and read books. Hopefully not make a mess. Right? See, you going to be a good boy?
Sure.
Okay. No, go with Talia. Go with Talia. He's the challenge one. I hope. The other two, I could sit in a chair for 3 hours. Him, I hope he lasts. Okay. Sorry about that. Which again sounds like something that we all should not do. So it's not clear exactly in his kabarati b'klein chaverai 100% exactly what the malya, the mila was. By all means, if anyone has an idea, I'd love to hear it. But we'll go back. I never went to bed with other people's tainas on me. Meaning, I always made sure to go to bed and ask Megilla. Again, these all sound like the types of things that I'm not saying we all do, but they sound like the things we all should be doing. These are not things that, he did extra. That already maybe I can hear. That's already a chush of a maila. Again, I'm not saying I do any of these three things, but Vachim b'mamayna we'll see is going to repeat itself throughout the next couple of places. And
Kevin, I think you skipped a couple of lines.
No, definitely not. That line of Vachim b'Memoni shows up 4 or 5 times, so make sure that you're not looking at a little bit later.
Oh, okay.
You good?
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Loinis chabarati b'klein chaver. Oh, sorry, this is my bad. Loinis chabarati b'klein. The Gemara goes through it. Ki had Rav Huna dari mora akasve. Rav Huna was once traveling and he was holding like a rake of some type of kli, an outdoor kli on his shoulders. Also, Rav Chana bar Chaniloi. Rav Chana bar Chaniloi came and saw him and he said, the kadari mine. He grabbed it from him to say, let me take this from you, Chash Rav Huna. I don't want you to have to carry it. I guess this is before Rav Huna had a big chariot. Yeah. Amarlei, irigilas the daris b'maasech dari. If it's normal for you, mitzad, you're covered to go walk around holding a rake. You know, the Talmud Chacham should walk around with a rake. In your city, if that's normal for you, then by all means, you feel free to take it off my hands. I have no problem with that. However, if it's not, then you're going to be sort of not, you're going to sort of let you're not going to be makbid on the cover that you normally are makbid on. V'loi is yakuri ana bezilusa didach lo nichli. I don't want to benefit at all. I don't want to have any pleasure or benefit from seeing you act in a way that's not b'kavadik for you. Meaning, if you don't feel at all a drop in kavod, then by all means, take it off my shoulders. I'm happy for you to take it. But if you do on any level, that I won't do. And that's what it means here when he says that lo niskabarati b'klein chavera. Obviously, the klein chavera of taking pleasure in someone else's downfall, no one's going to do that. He means over here that's this sort of a higher madrega where, he was being concerned, extra concerned for the kavod of that and the kavod that he would have been allowed to go ahead and do it. Either way, whenever he would go to bed, Omar, he would say, Shari le lechol man de tza'aron. Anyone who's caused me any tsar, like we say on kind of tsar, right? He's a meichel on anyone. V'vachem b'mayni hayisi. What's an example of that? Omar Mar Iyoi vachem b'mayni have. How do we know that Iyoi was a vachem in his mammon? Shohimeniach pruto lechenveni mi mayni. Whenever he would get a little change, he'd say, keep the change. I mean, he wasn't so makbid on every pruta that would come to him. Which again, you have to sort of work out exactly when do we say pachim ketanim, and when do we say, right, pachim ketanim, the Yaakov went back for the pachim ketanim, right? And when do we say, no, I'm a vachan b'memayni? What exactly that hagdar is, I don't have a good answer on, but it needs to be understood. Meaning there's a concept of Hashem gives you exactly what you're supposed to have. And you're supposed to use every moment. So obviously,
it depends if someone else is involved. Pachim ketanim would just go to waste. Okay.
And I'm assuming this is a different Nechunya, and not Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, because if it's the same Nechunya, it should say the same 3 things, right? And he says one thing same, but other things he says differently, unless you get real lumdish and you figure out how the 2 things he said now somehow fit into the other 2 things, which it could, but we'll see. He said, "B'maharach the yamim." And Asu Gabzi, his attendants, his in the Gabayim for Rabbi Nechunya came the Kamachule, and they sort of smacked him around a little bit. They said, "What are you doing? You're being disrespectful to the Gadol over here." Meaning Rabbi Akiva must have been a young man, and Rabbi Nechunya Hagadol was already the Gadol Ador at that time. And he says, "You're asking how did he zochet to such arichas yamim? You don't talk to the chashuv person that way, man. I mean, I guess you don't ask someone's age, right?" So he says to him, "Solik Yosef Aresha Dedikla." Rabbi Akiva ran away so much that he had to go run up a tree into the top of a palm tree. Amarle, and from, I guess, the tree, he said, Rabbi, he asked the kasha to Rabbi Nechunya HaGadol. He says, Im namar keves lama namar echad. The pasuk says by the Talmud, right? As a keves echad, a keves is a singular lashon. If it's a singular lashon, I don't have to say that it's one. So he asked him, why does it say that in the pasuk? So Amar lahu. So Rabbi Nechunya, when he heard this question, he realized he's not talking to a simpleton, he's talking to a Talmud Chacham. So he says, so he said to his attendants, he says, let him down from the tree. The Tzurvim Rabbanon is a young Talmud Chacham, maybe he's a little brash, but which you have to sort of fit this with the story of Rebbe Akiva, that he was only 40 years old when he started learning. Exactly, Tzurvim Rabbanon, I guess. I don't know, what's a Tzurvim Rabbanon? 50? I mean, Rabbi, are you a Tzurvim Rabbanon? I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm a Tzurvim Rabbanon. I feel like an old man. I got gray everywhere. Rough. There we go. So they let him alone. So once he said that, so now Rabbi Nechunya is giving him an answer. He says, why does it say echad? He says, echad means miyuchad sheba'edrei, meaning when you're giving from the animal that should go to the carbon talmud, don't just pick any animal. You got to pick the echad, the miyuchad, the best one that you have in the flock. Amalei, and he says, you want to know the answer to the first question you asked about what was it that I did that I was Zeich Tarichas Yomim? Miyamai loy kibalti matonos. I never accepted gifts. V'lo imadati al midoisai, and I was also ma'avir al my midas. The vachim b'memoini hayisi. So the vachim b'memoini you see, and maybe you could shtup the other two into the other two if you want to make them the same person. But either way, so the Gemara explains like kibalti matonos. Ki had the Rebbe Lazar, ki have mishadri le matonos mi benesia. When the house of the Nasi would send him gifts, he would not take them. Lo yavi shakil, he wouldn't take them. And not only that, ki have mizamnele, where they would invite him to go there. Lo yavi azul, he wouldn't go because he felt that this type of providing these provisions to invite them, he felt that he was benefiting. And since he was the one benefiting, that would be like taking gifts. And so as we'll see in a minute. Amar lahu. You don't want me to live? That's why you're inviting me? You're giving me gifts? You want me to die? That was his hanhaga. Reb Zeir would be sent from the Beinasiyah Matanas Lehavi Shakil. He also wouldn't take. However, when they didn't invite him, he would go. What about Seinim Matanas Yechi? He says no. Adam Chashav. Gemara says in Kedushin, woman gives a gift to a man and says, and he says, Mikudeshesly, with the fact that I'm accepting the gift, Mikudeshes. Why? Because an Adam Chashav is different. An Adam Chashav, when a very special person takes a gift from you, it's really he's giving to you, right? Just the idea that he accepts it. So Amar is Yakure de Miyakerbi. They want me to come. They have benefit from me coming because they hold me to be a Chashav person, and so it means a lot to them. It's like I'm giving to them. Rabbi Nechunya said that I was not Mavir, I was Mavir al Midaisav. How do I know that that's true? Remember, the pasuk says, "Noisei Avon ve'over al Pesha." Lemi Nosei Avon. Who is he? The one? Who is the one who has Nesias Avon? That is, his sins are gotten rid of. Lemi she'over al Pesha is for someone himself who is Mavir al Midaisav. Shal Rebbe Yehuda Nasi es Rebbe Shuban Karcha. V'maharachta Yomim. What was it you did to get the merit long life? Amalei Chatzta b'chaya. Again, what are you asking these crazy questions? You ask me about how long I lived. You're trying to make my life short. Like, what are you doing over here? You're asking how many. What do we say? Ein bracha shriya ela davar shesamim minayin. Don't tell me how. I don't know how old I am. But I don't know. I'm 23, and I'll be 23 until I'm not 23 anymore, and I don't know when that's going to be. Yeah. Amalei, he said back to him, Rebbe, what do you mean? Tayrihi uluman anitzarich. Don't tell me how old you are. But what did you do to get this old? I got to know. Amalei, he says, fine. I never looked on the face of an Adam Rasha. Meaning, Lashon here is histakalti. I didn't stare at an Adam Rasha. Meaning a person. Obviously, you see a person. But to sit and look at a picture of Hitler, Yismach Shemoy, or whoever it is, you never looked at a Rasha. In the Chassidish Swarm, they talk over here about that the panemius of a person is on the panim, it's on the face. That's why it's called panim. It's the reflection of the interior. And to be mistakil in such the effect that it has, it goes right from one face to the other. It goes right into you. The rishus can literally just like seep into your body, and it can have a terrible effect. You can almost like absorb their rishus to a certain extent. I don't know what that means, but the quote from Rabbuna Mishista talks about that. I don't understand all the words that I was quoting, but also the idea is that somehow it literally can get into the vridim, into the veins of your body, that you can literally take it in all by just staring at them. I guess when you stare at something, you're being machshav it. If you think about it just on a practical sense, it's one thing you look at something, you're passing by, but if already you're going to make a double take, that already means you're interested. There's something there. On some level, you're showing a deference to that idea, even if it's something that you can acknowledge as a terrible thing. Either way, what's the raya? Pasuk says, "Shneimar lule." I hope I don't butcher the nekudas here. Lule panai, because I don't have my Gemara here. I usually put the nekudas in. Lule panai Yehoshaphat Melech Yehuda ani noise im abet elecha v'im. Did I get it good?
Yeah.
Not bad. Okay, good. Yeah. It's okay. So now the pasuk talks about over there that he says, "I wouldn't look at you if not for the fact that I had to." But not for him. But he said, but you see from here, clearly you're not supposed to look at Russia.
So this is the source for Gedolim cards, maybe.
Maybe.
If you want to look at baseball players, you look at Tzaddikim.
There you go. Yeah, 100%. Unless you read all for the boss. If you read all for the boss, I don't think we're supposed to have pictures of anyone on anything.
Well, that was the boss.
Yeah, my daughter has a lot of dolls. All the noses, just life stuff. Okay. Rebbe Lazar Amar Ein of Chaos. He says if a person does this, he's going to go blind. His eyes will dim. Shneimar, like the pasuk says, by Yitzchak, by Yikizak and Yitzchak v'tukahena Einov Meir ois mishum di istakel be'esav. It's because he looked at Esav a Rasha. Esav was a Rasha. He looked at him. He's mistakel him. He had to. He was his brother. He was right there. But still, in the end of the day, it meant that he was going to go blind. For the Gemara, you telling me that's the reason why he became blind? Gemara, we saw actually. Was it in Tainus or is it earlier? I think it was in Megilla, like Tes, yeah, Tezayin, Tesvav. Don't allow the curse of even a simpleton be light in your eyes. Avimelech said to Sarah Imenu, and that klala came out. And Yitzchak Shnemer, what did he say? Hine hulach kisus einayim. It shall be to you a covering of the eyes, and al tikri kisus ela kisias, that it'll be a blinding of the eyes. Meaning what? Kisias einayim. Meaning, and therefore we know that Yitzchak eventually became blind. So you see, it was Mekuyim in her son, which again I never understood the whole idea of al tehei birchas or klalas hedyet kala beinecha. I guess it means that it's mashma from that statement that one has to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge it in order for it to work. Because why is it tali in you at all? Meaning, if someone gives you a bracha, you have to say amen. Are we assuming that if someone is mekalal you, it'll happen if you don't say something? I guess what it means is if someone gives a klala to you, you have to reject it. You have to stop it. You have to say the opposite of amen. Shelo emes. It's not emes. Either way. Hava hagar melay. So Elamai, the Gemara is asking, so which one causes him that you're going to become blind? He said, no, you can have both. Rav Amar Mehach, says, from a different pasuk, Se'es pnei rasha lo tov. Yeah, I'm not sure did I read that right? Se'es pnei rasha lo tov. Yeah, okay, that's the pasuk. Fine. That's where he learned it from. That you see, the lifting up of the face of a rasha is not good. Fine. B'shas p'tirasa, in the time that Rabbi Shimon Korcha was dying, so Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi Bar Chenis, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi asked him, please, Rabbi, give me a bracha. Amalei, he says, you should be zocheh to live to half my life. Doesn't sound like a great bracha. Then he says, well, you're not going to let me go live the whole way? Amalei, he said to him, Haboyim achrecha, your sons, behema yariu, are they going to, you want them to tend cattle? You want them to become farmers? Meaning, you're a Nasi. Your job is going to be, who's going to come after you? Your sons are going to take your spot. The shul's after the rabbis finishes being, he's going to go retire to Florida after he does what he does. So we're going to have another Bloomstein sitting over here, right? So what's going to happen? We're going to have another Bloomstein running the shul. If the rabbi sticks around till he's 90, his son's going to already be 80. But what's going on over here? Maybe not 80, whatever. So he says, therefore, you got to take, who says you got to live so long? Maybe you shouldn't live so long. Let your kids, we live for our kids. Yep. Either way, Avu Bar Eve, Minyam Bar E, Chadamar Tasi Li, Deloit Listakel Bekusi. He says, how great my bracha is going to be because I never looked at a kusi. V'chadamar Tasi Li, Deloit Avdi Shutvis Behadi Kusi. Not only did I not look at them, but I didn't even do business with them. Which sounds like the other one did business and never looked at him. Can you imagine sitting and talking to your partner and just like not staring at him? I don't know what that means. Partners I wish I could not stare at, but okay. Shalom Talmidim as Reb Zera. The Talmidim asked Reb Zera b'maharachti yomim, and here he says a bunch of really chashuv things. He says, "Amar lahem yom lo yikpadati b'soich." We learned this in Tainus. Miyom lo yikpadati b'soich. I love these old Gemaras where they put the Mekairis on the side. I don't have to stare up to the corner over here to find it. So gishmak. Because I'm like, this is familiar. Yeah, this is familiar because we just learned it. Okay. Miyom lo yikpadati b'soich beisi. There are times when a person does have to be makbid in his house, but he says I was never makbid in his house. And that was what he was zeich to have arichas yom. I think, like on a spiritual level, that's true. On a practical level, that's true also. I think there's an inherent reality that if you create a home that is a pleasure to be in, you want to live there. You want to live for a long time. You find all these stories of the husband dies, and then somehow a year later the wife dies. It always happens, or at least you hear the story oftentimes. That on some level, I'm sure on a spiritual level it's true, but I think on a practical level, the Viktor Frankl's reason for living goes away. It's hard to live. It's hard to continue living. And I think that's the same idea. If you create a home that's a pleasure to be in, you don't want to leave. So maybe Hashem gives it. What?
And kids stay from.
And the kids stay from. That's yeah. And they're there to help you. And it's so important. I never walked in front of someone who's more chashuv than me. I never thought in Divrei Torah in a place where it wasn't. Meaning that's a very chashuv thing. I wake up every morning. I'm getting nervous about saying for the daf. So I have my little headphones next to my bed. I put something in my ear. I want to start listening already. Maybe I could say something interesting. But I honestly, it's a challenge. Every morning I have to no. I got to go wash Nagel I got to go see Bechas Torah. I got to. The feeling sometimes. I'm not saying that's what I'm holding, but I'm just saying that. But it's really important. Sometimes you have to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. I want you guys to think I know what I'm talking about. So I got to throw stuff in my head to make sure what's going on. Yeah. Either way, I wouldn't go Dalet Amos without Torah, Ubelay Tefillin, right? Because we're going to say, Higisa Yom V'Layla. Okay, Yomi a couple minutes at night, a couple minutes by day, and I'm good. He says, no. Lo Yashanti Bebeis Medrash Lo Shinas Keva, that's Maker Adin. V'Lo Shinas Aray, and even I never took a nap in Shul. Actually, not in Shul. I now should stop saying that, because now we know there's a distinction between Shul and Beis Medrash. Maybe he did fall asleep in Shul. Maybe he held like a puppy. I never took any pleasure in the downfall of my friend. I never called him by a nickname, or I never called him by his last name or whatever. I heard a nice idea. What's the gross click over here? So you never took simcha and your friend falling down? I mean, who laughs when his friend falls down? I mean, that's terrible. I couldn't come to happiness in my own life if my chaverai are bitakala. If any one of my chaveirim are having a hard time, there's just no place for simcha in my life. Continues the Mishnah. We finished off the Mishnah before. The Rabbi Yehuda was the Tana who said you could sell it even for any tzarech at all. He says not only that, but Rabbi Yehuda beis haknes shecharif. If you have a shul that is destroyed, meaning it's desolate, it's not being used anymore. Ein maspidin b'seicha, you still can't use the building for hesped. Vein mafshilan b'seicha chavolim. I don't know what they did with these ropes, but you can't be mafshil with these ropes. Vein parsel b'seicha mitzudas. You can't use it to for hunting grounds. You want to trap some animals over there. You can't make a dog pen. Vein shoitchin al gaga peiros. You can't go ahead and if it has a roof, put fruit up there to dry. Vein oisin kapandaria. Even certainly a shul that when it's being used as a shul, but even a shul that's not being used shall not be used as a shortcut to get from one place to the other. Shenemar v'hashimoisi es makdishchem. I don't know. Did I butcher that one? He says over here in desolation makdishchem. Yeah, that the makom kodesh even b'shmama, meaning what? Kedushasan av shehein shomimin. They're holy even when they are desolate. Hey, good morning. Alu b'yasavim, and let's say grass is growing up in this shul. Lo yitlesh. Counterintuitively, you shall not pick them up. Why? We want people to see that it looks a little desolate. Just like when you're driving down a block, you see a house that no one's taking care of. I don't know about you. My first thought is, how much can I buy that house for? What can I sell that house for? Maybe I can make a couple of bucks. You see a shul that looks so desolate, there's grass growing out the doors. Maybe the Erlich in the community will say, you know what we got to do? It's just not covered at Torah. We got to go pull money together. Let's go fix up the shul. And that's why you got to leave it. Either way, person is not allowed in a shul to act with kalas rosh in a shul, which means what? You don't eat in a shul. But again, this is talking about when you make a shul to be just a base knesset. If it's obviously a community center where we have siyumim and Super Bowl parties, maybe it could be a thing. You don't drink, you don't eat. You don't use it as a place to do your makeup. Don't ask me nowadays what that would mean. You don't use it as a place to work out. No spaziering around in the shul. I don't think that means when you're davening. Some people have this thing. They can't sit, and I'm one of them sometimes, and they like to walk while they daven. That's not what it means. That you could do it. How do you can do that? Sorry, I said behema. It's an old Gemara. You can't go and use it as you want to get out of the sun or you want to get out of the rain. You can't do that. They must be them. You can't use it as a place for a funeral home. Hesped shel yachid, you can't do it. If it's just for a yachid where it's not going to be a covered, meaning so someone dies, you can't use it as a yachid here means Pashta is not a Talmud Chacham. Aval koyrin behen, you can learn there. B'shoinin behen. If it's for Talmud Chacham, now everyone's going to come for him, then it's okay. When is this all true? B'yeshuvan. That's when the shul is up and going. Aval b'churbanon, when it's down, meaning when it's desolate, when it's not being used anymore. Then he says, Minichin oisan, you can ve'oilin behen asavim. You can you leave them be and you let them grow, you make them look desolate, like we said in the Mishnah, in order so that people should whatever. Why are you talking about grass in the middle of your statement about all this other stuff? He says it's a little bit choppy, the words. He says, you're right, you got to go ahead and do some surgery over here. You shall not only do that, you should sweep them. You should mop it, meaning basically take care of the shul. in order to make sure that it doesn't get dirty. It doesn't. I mean, obviously, the ground there was not the ground like our ground. They had literally dirt on the floor, and so it's possible for the what do you call it? The grass and the weeds to grow through. So he says you should make sure to try to pull the weeds, basically. I'm Rabbi Yehuda, and now that I'm telling you, you should try to make sure that there's no asavim. Aim aside that this is all true. Be yeshuvan. Fine. I'm Rabbi Asi, but the Knessia should be Bavel al Tanai Hey Nasuyin and Rabbi. I do think this is the makor for the idea that one can, when he sets up a shul, set it up with specific conditions as to what they want the shul to actually be. So yes, we're going to daven here, but we might also use it as a simcha hall. You might also use it as some other chashuv thing. However, obviously here it says the Bati Knesias and Bavel, they did it out tonight. Still, even then, what does it mean? You can't do business in the shul. Don't use the shul as an office in the middle of the day. Person's going to sit and think in business while he's. I don't think it means during Slachlano. I mean, if you can't help, you can't help yourself. There's nothing you can do. But to sit down and you can open your computer, start doing business in shul. It says over here, Melinin Boyas Hames. It's going to end up leading to people are going to be leaving. They're going to end up showing such a disrespect to the shul that they're going to end up using it for. They're going to have dead bodies there, meaning they're going to use it as maybe a funeral home or whatever it is. For Gemara, Melin and Sakadai, does that make any sense? You can tell me there's no other place in the entire community where you can't use they have some fridges over there where you can put the body on ice. Ella, you're right. What it means is it'll come out, it'll come out that the people in that shul who are not being knowing covered in the shul, if you had any suffix that we should not have a Super Bowl party in the shul, this should be it. It says over here that you'll end up having a lot of meis mitzvahs in the shul, that people are going to die and they're not going to have any family members. It's a very terrible bracha. Either way, it said in the brisa that you shall not use it as a place to do, to make yourself all pretty up. Why? What do we mean when we say that a house is called a Bey Rabbanan? A Bey is short for Beisa. Beisa the Rabbanan, meaning for a Talmud Chacham, this is where he lives. Since he lives in the shul, since he lives in the Beis Medrash, for him there's. So you're allowed to be, you're allowed to take I think it's from Soloveitchik who says this, that the distinct, even though the Rambam refers to as a shul as a mikdash ma'at, he says why is it that in a shul you can wear shoes, but whereas in the Beis Hamikdash you can't wear shoes? He says because the two different batim are the Beis Hamikdash is Hashem's house. So in Hashem's house, he says you got to take off your shoes, but the shul is our house. The shul is our house, and the shul in your house you're a little bit more lighter with the types of shoes you wear. I did it again. They were asking a shaila from Rav in Halacha. Also, Zilcha Dimitra, and it started raining. They ran into shul, and they said, "Don't think I'm running into shul because I'm trying to get out of the rain." Amri Haida Ailina Lebei Knishta Lav Mishum Mitra Ela Mishum De Shmaitza Boy Tzilusa Kiyuma De Astana. Torah learning requires clarity, just like the clarity on a day when the north wind comes through. A north wind comes through. It's such a clear, beautiful day. That's what Shmaitza needs. And therefore, since the rain's coming, I can't think straight learning. I got to go inside, get out of the rain so I can think straight. What are you supposed to do if I need to go into shul to grab a guy to come out? I have no interest in going to the shul because I've davened already. Am I allowed to do that? We said no kapadaria and all these other things. Am I allowed to do that? He says, what should you do? If he's a young Talmud Chacham, maybe open up Shagasari and start learning the halacha. And if he's a person who he's not a big Talmud Chacham, but he at least knows Mishnayos, have a lema misnisan. Okay, so no, he knows how to read Tanakh. Let him up in the Tanakh. Lema psuka, the Eloi, and if he's a bur amaretz, it's still lema leili yanuka. Ask a child that's in the shul over there. Emeli psukecha. Tell me what are you currently learning in cheder, right? Inami nishahi porta v'nekum. Or if you can't even do that, and there's no one there, put your tush in a chair, sit down for a couple of minutes. I'm not sure exactly. I'm assuming what the Gemara means to say is you sit in the shul for a couple of minutes. Eventually, you're going to do something good. Meaning, you put your tush in a chair. If after 2 or 3 minutes, you're probably just not going to stare at the walls. You might actually open up a sefer. Umaspidin bohen especial rabbim. No, we'll pause here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
So it looks like
Flyer.
Okay, Kevin.
Well, I got to say the shiur. I got to make a flyer. What else am I doing? Am I cooking the food for the seed?
Yeah. I didn't tell you.
This Thursday?
Thursday night.
I didn't
Tell me where to be. I'll go.
Oh, yeah? Was it in the announcement?
Oh, we didn't put it in the napkin. Because I don't think we knew till told us.
Gosh, I don't know you still know.
Yeah, he's working on it.
Shkoyach.